I remember the first time I was offered a cigarette. I was in 6th grade. And fortunately, I didn't say yes, but I felt the pressure. There are so many things that factor into someone getting caught up in smoking cigarettes, doing drugs, drinking and partying, and all kinds of other addictions. And today we're not going to look at all of these factors, but we are going to look at how it often starts. Usually when we begin one of these behaviors, we don't do it alone. We do it because we give in to the pressure of our peers. It's really hard to go against the grain, isn't it? There's this temptation to just go along with the crowd and do what everybody else is doing. But I want to talk to 3 different groups of you today and encourage you in this. First, for those of you who have never really experimented in these things, I want to say, good job. That's awesome. There's this understanding in our world that you need to try everything to be wise, but that's worldly wisdom. That's not godly wisdom. There's actually a lot of value in choosing not to try things, in choosing to obey what God has asked you to do. He honors that. In 1 Timothy 6:11, Paul is writing to a young man named Timothy, and he encourages him to flee from those things that are tempting and to instead pursue godliness, love, and faith. So when you actually choose not to give in to that temptation, God honors that. Next, I want to speak to those of you who have already started to experiment in these things and are really feeling the pressure to continue. I want you to know that you have a choice. You are at a crossroads. You can either go along with what everybody else is doing, or you can go along with what God wants for you. And the question is, who are you trying to please? Because whoever you're trying to please, you're putting in the driver's seat of your life. Now, if we're going to put someone in that position in our life, we have to think about their heart towards us. God's heart towards us is for our good. So having Him in control means that we're going to be going on an amazing adventure where He's going to protect us. But when we put our friends in the driver's seat, we have to ask, what is their heart towards us? Maybe they just want you to go along with them so they can feel better about themselves. Or maybe they're not thinking about you at all. So remember, when you go along with somebody and you're trying to please them, you're giving them that control in your life. So it's important to think about who that person is and why they have that control. And last, I want to talk to those of you who are struggling with addiction. You feel like you're in so deep that there is no way to get out. In Galatians 5 verse 1, it says, "It is for freedom that Christ set us free." And that verse sounds kind of silly because it repeats itself. Obviously, it's for freedom that Christ set us free. But I think the writer knew that we just wouldn't get it. We would think that God set us free so that we could do what we want. Or we would forget that He set us free so that we could experience that and walk in it. I remember when I was struggling with my own addiction, and I was praying, and I had this image of myself sitting inside a prison cell. And outside of the cell, there was this huge table full of all of my favorite food, surrounded by all of my favorite people. And I was looking out longingly, wishing that I could be with them, wishing that I could have fun with them and just be free. And I sat there and looked up and realized that the cell door was open. And God reminded me that He has already paid the price. He had already opened the door and made a way for me to walk out of that addiction. God has done that for you. You may feel like you're at the bottom of the deepest well, but He is reaching down to you and inviting you to step out of that place of darkness. The first step is to ask for help. Don't be afraid to tell somebody what you're going through and get the help that you need. We want to leave you with a few things today. First is a question to ask God. Take some time and ask Him, why am I trying so hard to impress my friends? The second is a step to take. Write out a list of all the areas in your life where you would like to experience more of God's freedom. And then write out Galatians 5 verse 1 and put it up somewhere where you can see it every day. And the last is a resource. This resource is for you if you're going through some kind of addiction, and we'd recommend you do it with a friend or mentor. It's called A Banquet in the Grave. by Edward T. Welch. So how does our perspective change on this topic when we remember that we're daughters of God? We don't need to please and impress everybody. God already loves us. He delights in us. And if you're stuck in addiction right now, know that you don't need to feel ashamed. You can come to Him because He's already accepted you. And you don't have to walk out of this prison cell alone. He can help you up and walk you through it.